We are in Mr. Dilip Kumar's house, surrounded in a bar of flowers, all to celebrate his Dada Saab Phalke Award, which we feel has not come a day too soon. It should have come much earlier. For generations of film fans,
This is
Dilip
All
Kumar
India
has
Radio
been the symbol
Times
of
recording.
nuanced, reflective, subdued acting. He's defined acting for a whole lot of us. So, start with the inevitable question. Do you think this award has come too late?
I think it'll sound petty if I say
Uh,
yes, and it'll be untrue if I say no. So I'm in a fix. I think having received it, I should forget about the years that I did not. I thank the government for enjoining me with the name of great stalwarts who have already received these awards. I feel much touched by the fact that this award carries the name of that great pioneer, Dadasaheb Phalke, who is the pioneer of the Indian cinema.
Somehow, at the time of awards, we go back to the beginnings. The tendency is to look at the earlier works. Most people would identify you with the Devdas image, but I find that your most challenging performances personally have come from Ram or Sham, Azad, and Andaz. Would you agree with that assessment, or how would you see these roles?
Yes, they were different. Mughal Azam was different. It carried another mold and another personality and different metrics of delivering as well as performing. Ganga Jamna was yet another rural and rustic picture which was difficult for me to do. Variety is effective if well rendered, but a liability if it is not. So I feel happy about the wide spectrum of roles that I have had to play, but I had to work hard to
That
do
is
my day's
because
job.
you are very selective in accepting your roles, because expecting a Dilip Kumar film was an event for the audience. Because was it a carefully planned career move, or was it just your choosiness, or known meant for perfectionism?
There was nothing like a planned career. Things just happened. But one thing of which I tried to take care was to feel and have the touch of the ground on which I'm going to step. I couldn't say I was choosy,
Mm.
but I was selective, yes, to get a better raw material or story material and get a different character to perform because doing a variety varied characters is the test of the student actor as far as his ability to perform is concerned. I mean, rendering characters that are closer to the mold of your own personal personality is not very difficult. But if one has to school oneself in doing rustic roles and formal historical film or doing a doomed tragedian such as Devdas that you talked about, yes, they are characters of different molds, so one has to work thoughtfully. And I'm so deeply involved in it now, just now, as you questioned me, this that I've forgotten what you asked me. I've lost track of your question. As time went by, there was little to choose from because we may have developed roads and houses and computers and airplanes and five-star hotels that compete with the rest of the whatever is there in the rest of the world. But we have not developed literature. There is nothing such as contemporary literature to talk about for the volume and the population and the rich provincial characteristics of the south and Rajasthan and east and the north. We don't have enough literature. It's a paucity of literature because we've gotten given too much of attention to industrial development, to scientific or technological development. But while we are developing the technology, we cannot afford to lose our culture and our moorings.
Uh,
That's why we don't get the material.
in a way, that's why what has happened to film industry is, I mean, there's more technology and flashiness rather than stuff, real deep stories. That's why the films of today in the last 10 years have really failed to make an impact, whereas even now I can remember Andaz and the complexity of the characters and the suggestion made that a woman could be in love, Nargis could be in a way in love with two men, revolutionary for its time. And that must have been a challenge to all the three actors in that film to bring out those shades. That's why it's a memorable film
More than
today.
that, it was a great challenge to the picture maker because he was transgressing all the
Yeah.
established norms. But it worked. It was done with taste, and the conflicts were brought out well. I cannot say that it was an ideal product, but we dealt with themes that
This
occurred to
is
us,
All India Radio Archives recording.
and we worked together to render it as best as is possible. Nowadays, the attitudes of people are utilitarian, very utility oriented, and there is a much greater emphasis on money. Um, this is what handicap. When you see these artists performing these funny dances or doing clumsy scenes, you should bear one thing in mind that they are not doing it of their own free will. They do not have any better material to perform in or to work for. And people are making these demands on them and they've got to cater to it. I know most of these artists who desire to do something that would that was better and more satisfying, but getting nothing else, nothing better, they undertake whatever comes to them, and they some of them have caved in to the prevailing creed of working.
And how would you now? We are going to see you in a new incarnation as director.
Hmm.
Director with your name. Earlier, the thing was that you directed yourself in many of the films. That's what the common perception was. But now you're coming out with Kalinga. So, in what way have you conceived of yourself as a director? How would you?
Kalinga was a film.
Hmm.
I liked the subject matter. I and did the screenplay for it, and we were looking for a good director. But good directors are as difficult to get in the industry as the good actors. I had been abroad and they said they cannot find anyone who has got the time. And besides, those who have not worked with me are intimidated by this idea that I interfere with the script. So they couldn't find anybody. They asked me to do it. I was not inclined to do this role. I wanted a proficient director behind the screen because then my job is simplified and I have a given focus. But I took it up because they declared it in the press without taking a definite consent. Because at times I say, yeah, it will be an interesting proposition to do a film, but then they took it as a consent, and it was publicized. So there I was in the. So I did whatever best I could do.
I'm sure it will be a good job because one thing that has always struck critic about you was when there were no film schools of acting or actors didn't come from the stage, you seem to have developed on your own an intuitive understanding of how to act for the camera in a subdued, underplayed kind of a style.
Yes.
That that
It's better that one should ignore the camera and not be much concerned with how it is played. But it's better to go under the skin of the character that you are playing, and develop greater intimacy with what you're doing. And all this is easier said than done, because if you want to do it, then you live with it for breakfast, lunch, and for dinner, and go to bed with the idea. Because beyond a certain point, or in a certain reference, it's not what you do is as important as much as what you should not do.
Yes.
The do's and the don'ts are all equally important, and within that, you should develop a sense of belonging with the character. Then things become relatively easier.
It's like the it struck me when you say you should know, an actor should know what not to do. It's like a cricketer saying, Gavaskar saying that a good batsman is one who knows which ball to leave.
Yes,
So in a sense, that way
yes,
it's
yes,
not
yes, yes,
overplaying. You see,
yes,
because
yes,
when
yes.
you came in, the normal trend of Indian screen acting was loud and rhetoric. But to give a personalized feeling to a rhetorically written dialogue, I think that's tests the actor's creativity. I think challenges the actor's creativity, and you have developed a unique language of gesture that has become the Dilip Kumar style of acting. The way you use your hands, for example, the way you use a pause.
Yes. I
Uh,
didn't invent it, it was there
uh,
before I came, but I resorted to it, and if it is done, if you resort to it at the proper moment,
yes.
it has sometimes silence carries more impact, a gesture may be more eloquent.
It's an unfair question to ask, but who are the filmmakers, the directors that you have worked with you who have, say, molded your career much more than others, maybe?
I wonder if molding is the right term.
Or influenced you?
I should say that if there is any person that has given some molding to Dilip Kumar's work was Mr. Nitin
This
Bose,
is All India Radio Archives
a
recording.
man who was almost like a scholar in terms of cinema, and would nurse a person slowly into the role that he plays, stimulating the mind of the artist with the characters and the given situations. Supposing if there was a death through which the character has to negotiate himself, then he would go at length about the death of the near and the dear ones, stimulating your mind, moving your senses, narrating to you the death of his own mother or somebody close by, and instilling the value of the statement and also the restraint that's necessary. Character study. He was the first one to present me with Stanislavski's An Actor Prepares. People had more time,
Yes. Not like today.
not like today. We were a team that lived together along with the author who would give me the novel and say, "Have you read it?" I said, "Yes." Tagore's Milan. So he said, "Please read it again, once again." So I read it again. I took time over it. And then they would ask that, "You see this character that you are playing, it starts, what do you think is the age of Ramesh?" That was the principal character. I said, "He must be about 21. So the Sanjay Das was the writer. I said, why do you say 21? Why not 20 or maybe 22? So I said, maybe because I turned 21. Possibly that's, he said, that's interesting. Now, he said, Tagore does not mention anything about the years prior to the 21st year of Ramesh's life. He has very scant references. Could you build up as a story or a scenario or give us some sketches of his childhood? Can you construct it on your own? Through the infancy and then through his adolescent years and then way to his college education and back here. So I would go back and work on it, like developing a parallel fiction.
So, in a way, you wrote the emotional biographies of the characters that you
Characters,
played.
yes.
That's
So
a
if anybody could say this, molding the character,
Character.
molding the actor, or in a way, how does the actor prepare? I think this was one of the. I'm just giving you some kind of a graphic idea of what we did, and to get underneath the skin of the character, not just to lend himself to the scene.
Yes. That's why I think maybe this kind of preparation helped you. You know, in a film like Azad, there were so many people think of it as a swashbuckling character, but as a performance, there was humor, there was a certain idealism, there was nobility, there was action and romance. So, converge all that and keep a performance at a even level, I
Yeah.
think is a very challenging thing, which somehow has not been recognized, because somehow I feel that those are, as a performer, you were, I think they were peak. Yes.
Yeah, these are, yes, things difficult to achieve without becoming too funny or slapstick comedy or resorting to some cheaper innovations. They can perhaps be look more flashy, but that was the temper of the time. Things are changing. Now we are just about to enter the 2000th year.
Okay, one last question. Now that you have written a screenplay and you are directed a film, would you make this more? Would we see more films written and directed by Dilip Kumar soon?
As a member of units, when we discuss, I did a good lot of pen pushing, and that's what we are have done here in this. Let me see the result, and let us also study the environment, because here one more most important factor today is getting the funds, the money, and for that the most I feel that it will. I feel extremely diffident about going out for funds and writing out your property and things at high rates of interest.
This
That
is
is what
All India
freezes
Radio
or
Archives
stifles
podcast.
projects. This is one factor that one has to reckon with. And we don't have any national finance corporation for this great creative medium. Making a film is not like selling 1,000 bags of cement or a bus, the purchase or the sale of it. But it's can be something which gives so much to the people to satisfy their, even if it's a comedy, there's nothing wrong with making good comedies, there's nothing wrong with making good romantic films or contemporary themes, but I feel intimidated by the compulsions of the present time. Not that I would need stars and I'll have to work with them. I can do without the established stars. Every star of today is the aspirant of yesterday.
Yes.
So we can get aspirants, but the conditions are not very congenial.
Let's hope the conditions will turn congenial after the Falke Award and we do get more films starring you as well as, being made by you, because I think the accumulated experience of the medium, for so many years, I think will make a fine film director out of you. I mean, that's our
I
gut
hope so
feeling.
too. I hope so too.
Okay.
As they say, Amen at the end of every prayer. Let's hope and pray that it comes out to
Amen
be
to
true.
that.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.